Hey, fun people! Welcome to Everything Aja. If you are new here, welcome to what we like to call Chat It Up Saturdays. And on Chat It Up Saturdays, we just gather together as a community of educators and homeschool parents, and we talk about hot educational topics. We also receive effective reading tips that we can easily implement, and so much more. So, welcome. Oh, goodness. Welcome. Today we are chatting about why libraries are taking books off the shelves. Why are they taking books off the shelves instead of putting them on the shelves? Introduce yourself down below in the chat box. I like to get to know ya. Come on now. Want to get to know you. Ignore all that extra noise in the background. I don't know what is going on. But to introduce yourself down below in the chat box. Today's message is going to be very interactive. So even if you are watching the replay, I ask you to share your thoughts down below in the comments. I want to know what you think about what is literally going on right here in America when it comes to children having access to books. So let me know your thoughts down below in the chat box. For those that do not know me, let me just introduce myself a little bit. My name is Aja. Hey, I'm an educational consultant. I have been a kindergarten through fifth grade curriculum specialist, meaning that I'm over all things teaching and learning. I was an administrator, and literally I taught teachers how to teach, and not just reading. In fact, I taught them how to teach reading, math. I was over classroom development, all professional developments, you name it, I was over it. So that's what I've been doing. I have over 10 plus years of experience in Title I schools, have my reading endorsement. I'm certified in correcting and diagnosing mathematics and reading behaviors, and so much more. Here on Everything Aja, let me tell you a little bit about the brand. I help teachers and homeschool parents teach their struggling readers without ever feeling overwhelmed. I help them go from feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, and burned out to feeling confident, prepared, and actually being able to make a difference. So let me know who you are, where you are tuning in from this grand Saturday morning down below in the chat box. I feel like my shirt is like cricket. Hmm. Anywho, I'm like, why is my shirt cricket today? What is going on? Today, we are talking about why libraries are taking books off the shelves. So, why did this topic come up? What made me want to actually start talking about this? In fact, it actually started off, I was on Instagram, and what is it, Black Homeschoolers? I follow them on Instagram, and I see this long reel. It was like 3 minutes. It was really, really long. I see this reel pop up about a substitute teacher getting fired over exposing that his son's library books were taken off the shelf. And I sit there and I'm like, So I started listening. And it's the story of Brian Covey. He is a Florida substitute teacher. He actually started teaching back in October 2022, but he was recently fired from a video he took and posted on Twitter that went viral. So, according to Brian, his son is like, hey, they took all the books off the shelf. So his son was a very avid reader. His son's in fifth grade. He also has a daughter that attends that school as well. And so his son liked to read. In fact, the book that his son was reading was about immigrants coming over to America. And his son is like reading the books and likes to read, loves the library, loves the good books. And so the son goes to him and he's like, Dad, they took all the books off the shelf. What is going on? And he's like, there's no way that the library took all the books off the shelf. And so then when he went back to the school, they were actually having like this reading week or whatnot. And he actually was talking about it with some of the other teachers, and they said, well, why don't you go check it out? And so then Brian Covey goes and he goes into the library, and lo and behold, all of the books have been removed out from the library. So he takes a 30-second video clip of all the shelves. They all look like this, completely bare and empty. And then he posts that clip on Twitter. He was literally flabbergasted that my son was right. Why would they take all the books out of the library? Well, the video went viral. When I say viral, I mean viral. The video went viral to the point that it got the attention of the governor, DeSantos. And we might have heard his name. Is feel like Governor DeSantos' name has been all over the news recently. I know in like within this week, he is now trying to ban all Divine Nine Greek organizations out of the colleges. Who are in Divine Nine? African Americans and people that look just like me. And so now you're trying to ban all organizations that are designed for minorities within your state. Hello, stay woke, people. And so here we are, substitute teacher exposing him. So of course he doesn't have anything to do with it until the video goes viral. So this video goes viral on Twitter about, the school, this is the elementary school, taking all the books away. Well, this had me doing some research. And so I was like, well, how can they take, and I'll finish the story in a second, but I was like, how can they take all the books from the library? Like, how is this legal? How is this possible? What is going on? Well, in order for books to get banned, all you have to do is challenge a book, and anybody can challenge a book. In fact, teachers can challenge books, school administrators can challenge books, parents can even challenge a book if it seems like it is un appropriate for a child. It can be, between the language, or it can even be because of the content. Well, now, because so many things are happening in the world, you can really make any book banned depending on the way you spin this challenge. So now, so many schools and so many books are getting banned. And so I just wanted to give you that background knowledge because it's going to come back in a second. And so the governor says that Governor DeSantis said that it was fake news, that this is a false narrative, that this is not really happening. They're not banning books. And he said right after the governor said that it was a false narrative, like the video didn't just appear. It was a lie. It was all a lie. Who's that make you hear sound like? But it was all a lie. It's fake news, et cetera, et cetera. Then Brian Covey goes back to work the next day and boop, he gets a message: your services are no longer needed. Hmm. So let me know down below in the chat box. What are your thoughts about that situation? Like, a substitute teacher who's also a parent now, it's important that you understand that in this capacity, he was actually acting as a parent, that his child was concerned because all the books are gone. All the books are gone. And then voice your concern as a parent, as a concerned parent. Why are the books gone? Why are all the books removed? And then their response is, well, we had to only show the approved books. Well, there's no books in the library. The library books are empty. And then the governor says, oh, this is false news. And so this also had me go down a rabbit hole of research. So Newsweek says that the House Bill of 1462 that actually took effect last July, you guys, like literally not even a year ago, requires books and materials to be reviewed by a district employee holding a valid educational media specialist certificate. So you do have to be a certified media specialist in order to officially like review a book. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're chatting about these banned books in America and what is really going on in the world around us. And so this House bill that was just passed within this last year requires a person to have a media specialist certificate, but watch this: books must be age appropriate, that makes sense, free of pornography, I'm sure you agree with that, and suited to student needs. That is the subjective part, right? And it says, and their ability to comprehend the material presented. But suited to student needs can now be taken and based on interpretation of the person. Like somebody can literally say that, with all these things like George Floyd's death and all these other things, police brutality, spruing up, that those things are technically not suited for student needs. And so now what you have are people subjectively, good morning, good morning, good morning, people subjectively being able to remove books off the shelves and off out of these libraries. And this isn't just happening in Florida. In fact, as I was really looking at what was happening with the substitute teacher, hey Keisha, good morning, good morning, as I was researching what was happening with, the Brian Covey situation and how he got fired just for speaking out about the books being banned in his child's library, I started looking at book bans, and this is not something that's only happening in Florida. Oh no, it's actually happening all around the United States. Like I said, share your thoughts down below in the comments. Have you seen this where you are located? But all around America right now, books are being banned based on subjectiveness. And it made me think, like, as a person of minorities, I've also heard rumors, not rumors, because these are real life bills that are trying to be passed. Um, that they're trying to remove things out of the curriculum, i.e., slavery. Oh, didn't happen. Trying to remove slavery out of the curriculum, trying to remove Dr. Martin Luther King, that holiday out of schools now. We're just going to ignore the entire civil rights movement. Recently, the bill in Mississippi just got passed, now kind of going back against Jim Crow laws. And so all of these things are happening all at the exact same time right here in America. And so, even looking at the way our children have access to books of other children looking like them. In fact, more and more books are coming out, more and more books are getting banned. In fact, Pen America, in their article, it said that from July of 2021 to June of 2022, that the list of banned books actually drastically increased, affecting over 1,600 book titles. And all of these are by different authors, translators, etc. And so now what is happening is people are literally banning books based on how they want to shape the thinking of young minds and the thinking of young children. And so we really have to stay woke, y'all. And so this also had me, as I was reading about book bans and what happened with the substitute teacher down in Florida, I then run across another story of this lady, Nicole Harlow, and she lives on the Gulf area, and she is also a mom, and her daughter is actually not in elementary, she was in high school, and she came and she was like, mom, like, all the books, they didn't remove the books, they just covered them up. And so they covered up all the books with a big sign that says books are not for student use. And in her child's school, her child did not have access to any of the books, they just kind of covered all of the books. And this whole nationwide banned book thing is happening all around us, and it's not just based on what we want to expose our children to, but a lot of these, like I stated, are the governor, in the legislature, they're being literally, laws are being created based on people that aren't even in the classroom, that have no access to the actual education and what's going on. And what because of this, administrators are starting to catch on. The Washington Post actually stated that administrators are afraid of attracting controversy based on their books, so they're just quietly removing books from library shelves before the books can get challenged. So what they're doing, if a book just seems like, oh, maybe somebody might challenge this book. Let me just take it off. Oh, maybe this is highlighting the injustices in America. Let me remove this book off the shelf. Like I stated, even with the Brian, Covey situation, his child was reading about immigrants from Thailand coming over to America. And it's like, so, that is a controversial issue. Some people, i.e., certain political parties are against immigrants, some are. And so, right there, that is subjective to if children need to be exposed to the idea of immigration. For those of you guys, let me know down below in the chat box if you serve any English language students. I know I did an English language learner training, the ELL training, as an administrator. We went and we were talking about it based on from a curriculum perspective, and everybody that was in there were different stakeholders or people that dealt with curriculum. Like I stated, those that don't know, I am a former curriculum specialist. And so in that meeting, we went over the importance of access to books that are like the experience that children go through. And they exposed us to different books about immigration, about what it takes for families to actually come over to America. And I didn't even know there were so many books about that, because these are books that I had not been personally exposed to. And I remember sitting there like, you're right, the same way, like for our little girls. And I remember when I was growing up, you did not see Barbie dolls that looked like us. You had one. Yeah, there was like one doll of color, and that was always be the doll that my mom would get when we went to the store. She'd be like, "You're getting that doll, period." And you did not have this wide range of choices like children do today, and books have to be the same way. And so now, I feel like, it's been like a big movement after George Floyd's death, that we have had more books about the diversity of children, the diversity of what we look like, what's going on in the world around them. But now it seems like, now, schools and districts and government officials now have been slowly removing different sorts of books from the library. So let me know your thoughts. Has this been a thing that you have seen? Have you been affected from book ban removal? Is this the first time you're even hearing about this, or have you, like me, seen the whole situation of book bans on the internet, on TikTok, on Instagram? It's definitely a hot topic right now, as more and more things are coming out, and as people like Governor DeSantis want to call it a fake narrative, or want to lie about that this thing is actually not happening. There's research and so many articles out there on, yes, these things are happening. Yes, these books are quote unquote being called banned, or that they violate certain things, and then they're having to be removed from the shelves of our schools, from the shelves of our children. Um, and it's crazy that most children, they used to have the ability to just go to the teacher. I remember when I was a kid, I remember reading a book, y'all. It was Keenan and Kale. It's a Keenan and Kale book, and it had a cuss word in it. And I would go to my teacher, and the teacher would then handle the situation. Well, now teachers are scared, administrators are scared, and so instead of exposing children to anything that has a question mark, you don't want to lose your license, because you can use your license. I read that in the Washington Post, how teachers could then lose their licensing for this. And so, because everybody's kind of walking on eggshells, it's easier to just take the books out than to address the problem at hand. It's crazy that it said that in the Washington Post, it was talking about that schools nationwide are doing this. This is not just something that's happening here or happening there, that all across the world, there are schools all over, elementary, middle school, high school, that are removing any book that seems like it could be challenged based on perspective. They are removing those books out of libraries. Now, do I say that our children need to be listening, reading books that are filled with filth? I am not saying that at all. What I am saying is that um we should, as far as like a community, I feel like we should have a say so in what's going on, or even be aware of what's going on. It even talked about in the Washington Post article how even books about the LGBTQ community were starting to circulate within schools, and then now they're now have been challenged, quote unquote. They've been challenged and found, controversial between parents. And so I mean, I understand that too. And so I don't know, it's just like a catch 2020. In Idaho, there's a bill that threatens librarians with up to a $1,000 fine or a year in prison if they expose children to certain books under the age of 18. And so there is like starting to become a regulation around books. And I also feel like there should be a regulation then around what we expose our children to on the internet, if we're going to go that far. But what are your thoughts? Have you heard this? Have you seen it? How are you feeling even just listening to this right now? Let me know down below in the chat box. What are your thoughts? What's going on in the classrooms? Because this does affect us and literally our community and what's going on around us. And it also makes me think like all of those that are, you know, librarians or media specialists, like how is the pressure for you if we have a media specialist here in the audience in the community? Like how does this affect you? Because I'm pretty sure this is not the first time you've heard this heard this, but with this new law being passed just last July, it does put the pressure on you. And then you have states like Idaho that are now fining that media specialist for having these books, circulate. And so now it's almost, instead of, the top people, is now putting the pressure on the libraries and the penalties on the librarian themselves. And even stated that the manatee superintendent wrote an email that a felony up to a third degree could actually be issued if books that are circulated that do have those explicit things to minors. And so there's laws starting to pass. And so definitely want to know your thoughts. You said there was a book you used when you taught perseverance in kindergarten. It was banned. Oh goodness. And you were unaware. You said 8 years later it was put back on the shelf. Yes, someone was offended because the I think it got cut off. Your message got cut off. And so you've actually read a book. And so wait. Look, finish your statement. Finish your statement. I want to hear this. I want to hear this. And I think that's also crazy that the book you used to, share with your children that you use for teaching now went away because somebody got offended. So that means the book was challenged and then they brought it back. It also makes you think that really, like when I was reading the bill that just got passed last July, and now you see all this controversial happening with books and what our children are exposed to, like anybody can challenge a book. And based on your perspective and how you word the challenge, the book can be found controversial and then removed immediately. And so it makes it hard to, like I stated, when I was in my ELL class and I was reading some of the books. I told you we read one book and it was literally about how that person's parents got over to America and what they had to face and endure. But it was an elementary book, and it had cartoons or not animations because it was an animated book, but it had the illustrations. And I was like, man, but a child whose family went through that, they now can identify that book. But now it's like I could see if somebody wanted to challenge that book, how that book could easily be banned. Books on slavery that explicitly go over what was going on in those times, now based on the subjectiveness, they can remove all those books, especially now that they're trying to remove these certain topics out of the curriculum. That all of this affects now the access of literature that our children have access to. Now, like I stated, I'm just throwing this out there as topic of conversation. I'm not saying I personally don't want my daughter reading about certain things that I would not approve of her, so I get that part too. Um, but also it's almost like, or how could we make a solution as a people? Like, should books be voted on? Should there be an open quorum to vote on a book before it's banned? But it seems like, based on the challenge, is just one person, and that one person is now given the huge responsibility and the penalty. And so it's like, well, man, all of that is based on one person's point of view. Like, they have to take the challenges, they have to take the books themselves, and based on how they see it, decide if the book is banned or not. And I was like, wait, that's not fair. And the law and the fine of it is so extreme. You can only imagine the pressure that now media specialists have, and have to uphold. Also, let me know, do you think Brian Covey should have gotten fired? I know we all signed a contract, but I know his firing, or we don't need your services anymore, went completely viral after he shared that post. In fact, it's crazy because he actually told Newsweek that over 6,000 books approved in the district in the last 3 weeks after he did the video. And now that there's over 1.6 million titles that need to be reviewed by July 1st. And so his video then challenged it. It made it in the eyes of so many stakeholders that didn't even know what was going on. And now they're looking like, man. And so it's like, should he have gotten fired for exposing this? Now, we do know that technically he was an employee of the district, and so anything you put out, even though he was putting it out as a teacher, now is still not looked upon that. I mean, he was putting it out as a parent. You're still an employee of that school district. And so it's crazy. It's really interesting. So let me know your thoughts. Do you feel like he should have gotten fired for exposing that, or should there have been another consequence that happened? He definitely said, the way that he handled it, to publicly defend himself and his kids. He also wanted time to just decide if he even wanted to still pursue teaching. It's crazy. Also in Florida, there's this group called Moms for Liberty. I don't know if you guys have ever heard them, but Moms for Liberty actually has a petition out. They want to at least remove 150 books from Florida school libraries. And so there's a lot out there of different groups that are wanting to remove, the books that children are exposed to and the topics that children are exposed to. So let me know, what are your thoughts? Bonnie says, she's like, look, I was one that read a book. I didn't know it was banned, and now look, bam, here we are. I was trying to read a book about perseverance to my children, and here we go. The book was banned, and now it's brought back. And so, what would you guys think as far as a better way of controlling the narrative, what our children read and what they're exposed to? Especially, you have to imagine that as our children get older, well, like I stated, even the Brian Covey situation, that was elementary school. One of his kids was in second grade, one was in fifth grade. But you can only imagine, as they get into middle school or high school, the topics are more broad. They can handle a little bit more, of the abstract reality that we face here in America. And so, as children start to get a little older, that they can handle that. And so just let me know, what are y'all thoughts? What do you think? What are your 2 cents, your insight, even if you're watching the replay? This just really, really caught me off guard as I saw exactly what is going on. And as a parent, as a mom, as an educator, I was just like, man, like, what are my thoughts? How do I feel? I know, like, even what's going on in Florida, um, it's big. It's big because it only starts with one state, and they start to persuade other states. In fact, even like what's going on in African American history and what they're trying to do with the curriculum. I can visually see them now trying to remove books about, my heritage, my ancestors' heritage, and what's going on. And it's like we're really almost going backwards in a sense. Keisha said it's sad. It's just sad. It's sad. It really is. Like it really is, because it's like I almost see it from the administrator perspective, as far as you're scared to even put yourself on the line. Like you're like, okay, what all this going out, it's my job. My job is how I feed my family. So I'm just not going to share any of the books. And we're just going to remove all the books until we can figure out what's appropriate, what's not appropriate based on, perspective, really perspective. And I get the scariness of it, but it's like, but then we can't not encourage our children to read. And then it's like, okay, well, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, literally we're putting that responsibility in that of the media specialist. Well, that's how you get schools like Brian Covey's school, that they don't want to go against the governor, you don't want to lose your job. And so you get libraries that look like this, empty shelved libraries with no books on them, just empty wood, empty wood. And then just seeing what they're trying to do with the curriculum and how they're trying to remove just slavery altogether, like it didn't happen. Like that wasn't that long ago that slavery was a thing. Like segregation didn't happen that long ago. I grew up and actually went to a school that was a segregated school, even though they were trying to integrate the actual classroom experience. Everything else was segregated. And so it's like now we're going backwards in history, where now we went from like being this open country, like we had, books about all different kind of ethnicities and backgrounds, because we all don't look alike, we all don't have the same background, we all don't have the same social economic status. And then you started seeing more books about all different kinds of people and children. And now it's like, okay, pump the brakes, we need to go all the way back. What you have to imagine, as the media is getting more diverse, as the media is exposing more and more things to children, so are books, so are books. And so it's just interesting, like seeing how books are banned, the process, and seeing how that affects us. Like we're trying to help our struggling readers want to read. You guys know one strategy that I always tell you is the topic. You can get children to want to read by giving them a topic that they are interested in. A part of that is having characters and people in the books look like them, that have similar experiences that they have. Well, if all of those books are banned, then how could we ever encourage our struggling readers to read? How could we get them to care about literacy? How could we get them to want to read and close in this reading gap if we don't have books with children in those books that look like them? If we don't have books with children in those books that are going through the same thing that they are going to, because it's a controversial topic and therefore is now a banned book. Dun, dun, dun. So I'm with Keisha. It's sad, but it's the reality that we're facing right now in America. It's the reality we're facing in a society that is scared. It's the reality we're facing in a society that doesn't want to uphold the next powerful person, and you have people like Governor DeSantos that are using their power to change the narrative of what's going on, calling it fake news. Well, no, this is what's really going on ever since that bill was passed last summer. And it's crazy because also in looking at the firing of Brian Covey, not only that, there's active organizations in the state of Florida that want to push against DeSantos policies, because his policies, you guys, are explicitly targeting race. They're explicitly targeting sexuality, and they're explicitly targeting gender, and explicitly targeting history. So for me personally, as a minority, race affects me and my daughter, gender, history, sexuality, not so much. But like those books of people that may be like our children, that that our children are facing. Now you see explicitly in Florida like how easy it is for a political platform to kind of come in and affect what is going on in our schools, and in our communities and in our society. Even you said too we have too much to be concerned about. Come on now. Homelessness, abuse, bullying, kids that cannot read. I can't. Like it's too much. It's too much that we have to keep in count. Yes. And now like we also now have the books that our kids are exposed to. Like it's like whatever happened to, I know like hate to bring this YouTube up, but like, YouTube is one of those things that you love it and you hate it, right? Especially as a parent or as a teacher, it's like there's so much out there that is helpful. There's so much out there that is amazing, but then there's also those things out there that are aimed to hurt children, that are aimed to shape the minds of the youth in a negative way. And so our children have easy access to videos and things via the web of YouTube. But then you also then now have to see, okay, what are the best ways to monitor that, to kind of filter what they take in. Well, now we're seeing the same thing is happening not only on a digital platform, but now physically within our libraries, within our school libraries, it's physically happening right before our very eyes. And so it is something that is on our plate. And it will seem to be easier, like, okay, we're just not going to do YouTube in school, period. That's it. But now our books have now become the new YouTube. People went from creating videos about things to now writing books. And now it's almost gotten so carried away that um from a perspective you can literally change what children are exposed to, how they view things, what they can see. And we're literally, you see how politics are shaping the way our children think. And so I do feel like, look, talking about homeschooling, you can see the shift to more and more people, especially people of color, people of diverse backgrounds, people of minorities, that start to shift to saying, well, if you want your children to see books of people that look like you, see books of people that have gone through the same similar situations, then you have to be the one to expose them. And you can't rely on the school system to do that, because it is very limited what they are exposed to. Come on now. She's like, look, there's just too much. It's just another thing that we have to worry about. And then it's almost unfair, as though if I like anybody that's a media specialist, now this is something big that's on your plate, and the fines for it and the accountability to do something is so drastic. And so that's crazy as well. Well, thanks for sharing y'all's thoughts, letting me know. Like I said, if you're watching the replay, definitely share your thoughts down below in the comments. Let us know, what do you think about this book ban, what's going on right here in America and in so many of our schools, so many of our libraries all around us. And so this is something that if we're not actively looking for and speaking out against, and looking around, then it's going to happen. Before we know it, our children will no longer have access to books of children and things that are similar to who they are, what they look like, what they go through. And so thanks so much for tuning in and sharing your thoughts on that. All right, I enjoyed chatting with y'all. I really did. Let me know down below in the chat box if there are other pressing topics that you feel like you want to talk about right here on our Chatted Up Saturdays, other things that you're seeing within the media, the news, that are affecting how you teach, how you homeschool, how you educate the youth. And so There's more things than just the book ban that are affecting our children right here, right now, right before our eyes. And look, let's just chat about it. Also, I want to let you guys know about what is coming up here on everything Aja next Saturday, next Chat It Up Saturday. I want to invite you to join with all of your reading questions. So next Saturday we're going to do like an open reading Q&A. Right now we're in the part of the year that it seems like the pressure is real. Maybe you feel like Keisha, like I just can't right now. I just can't. All of my upper grades are getting ready for testing, and so many things are going on right now. And I know I was talking to one of the members in my program, Teaching by Design, and she was talking about her children. She was like, I really just don't want the year to go by, and at the end they're still struggling. But her school has changed up policies so many different times this year, and she was just like, I want to make a difference. I want to make a difference. I'm ready to make a difference. And so she was just like, I just can't just teach. Like there's just so much that I have to do, and all these other things that we have to worry about. And it's just during that time of year right now that you can only imagine those that are in the classroom, that domino effect of the pressure that admin gets, and then that comes right down, trickling down to you, because you're the one that is affecting the kids directly. So, right in the community tab, there is going to be a post that you could just come in and drop your questions. And so make sure that you just share any of your questions. I'll be on here next Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time answering your multitude of reading questions. So let's just come gather, get our questions answered, just have a little Q&A time right here on the channel. So I'll see you next Saturday. Let me know your thoughts about this book ban, and thanks for tuning in.